I was the family disappointment compared to a dog and a goldfish. Years later, they needed me, the lawyer. Hello, Reddit I+ community. Growing up, I wasn't just the youngest in my family. I was the scapegoat, the overlooked kid, the one my parents never quite figured out how to handle. I'm 34 now, a seasoned attorney known for being fierce in the courtroom. But back then, I was just the kid who couldn't match up, not even to the family pets. My name is Ethan Morales, and for most of my childhood, my parents made it clear they thought our dog had more potential than I did. I had two older siblings. My brother, Lucas, was the star, tall, blonde, and a natural athlete who had coaches tripping over themselves to recruit him. By his junior year, he was drowning in scholarship offers from top-tier schools for basketball. My sister, Isabella, was equally impressive, a straight-A student who breezed through classes without breaking a sweat. She was class president, won debate tournaments, and dominated science fairs. Teachers called her a prodigy. And then there was me, Ethan, clumsy, disorganized, the kid who stumbled through oral presentations, blanked out during math tests, and turned in essays that were barely coherent because I couldn't structure my ideas. My parents, Richard and Diane, were high flyers themselves. Dad was a top executive at a financial firm. Mom ran a medical clinic. Their standards weren't just high, they were crushing. And when I didn't meet them, they didn't hold back. The comparisons started when I was around 9. I'd bring home a report card with mostly C's, maybe a B or 2 if I was lucky. I thought it was decent, but Dad would lay the report card on the dining table like it was a criminal indictment. He'd sigh and say, "Ethan, I swear even Max could do better than this." Max was our golden retriever, a goofy, drooling dog who spent his days chasing squirrels. Mom would smirk and add, "At least Max pays attention when there's a treat involved. You can't even focus long enough to finish a worksheet." They weren't kidding. That became their go-to tactic for motivating me. Every time I fell short, they'd compare me to some animal. When I struggled to learn how to swim, Dad said, "Dolphins glide through water effortlessly. Maybe we should send you to their trainer." When I failed a vocabulary test, Mom quipped, "Parrots can mimic words better than you." When I tanked a science quiz, Dad scoffed, "Even a mule can learn tricks." "What's your excuse?" Isabella would sometimes pile on, saying it was humiliating to have a brother dumber than a turtle. Lucas once told his buddies I had the brain of a jellyfish. I'd force a laugh sometimes just to mask the sting. But deep down, their words carved into me. I started to believe them. I was slower, less capable. Maybe the animals were worth more than me. By my sophomore year of high school, my confidence was in tatters. I was flunking biology despite pulling all-nighters to make sense of it. One day, I brought home a test paper bleeding with red marks. The kitchen showdown was inevitable. Dad glanced at the paper and muttered, "Lab mice could run experiments better than this." Mom, stirring her tea, added, "At least lab mice contribute to progress. You can't even contribute to your own grades." Then Dad landed the final punch. "You know, they say octopuses are smarter than most people. If brains were handed out fairly, an octopus would be running a law firm, and Ethan here would be the one fetching its coffee." I didn't cry, not that day. Something in me went still like a fire had been snuffed out. I realized I had two paths, keep believing their words or prove them wrong. I chose to fight back. I stopped trying to learn their way. I found my own. Color-coded notes, diagrams, late nights breaking down problems until they made sense. I swallowed my shame and asked teachers for extra help. Slowly, my grades climbed. From C's to B's, then the occasional. My parents dismissed it as luck. "Don't get cocky," Dad said. "It's probably just easier teachers." But by senior year, when college applications came around, I applied in secret, using money from my part-time job at a hardware store. When acceptance letters arrived, I kept them hidden until I'd made my choice. Crestwood University, a solid school that even offered me a partial scholarship. When I told my parents, their faces were a mix of shock and disbelief. Dad asked if I'd forged the letter. Mom suggested colleges were admitting anyone these days. Lucas laughed. Isabella sighed. I didn't care. For once, I'd done something they couldn't. College was my escape. Free from their constant jabs, I realized I wasn't dumb. I was determined, curious, and good at untangling complex ideas. Professors praised my knack for breaking down tough problems. By my junior year, I knew I wanted to go to law school. The irony wasn't lost on me. The kid once compared to a dog chasing its tail was now training to protect kids from the kind of verbal abuse I'd endured. Law school was grueling, but I excelled. I graduated near the top of my class, focusing on family law and child advocacy. My parents attended my graduation, but Dad told relatives. Lawyers just talk for a living, and Mom muttered that my professors probably graded me leniently. Still, I didn't let their skepticism dim my pride. Fast forward, I built a career in family law, defending kids trapped in toxic custody disputes, standing up for those who'd been demeaned by the people meant to love them. I made a name for myself. One tough cases got featured in legal publications. Lucas, the star athlete, tore his ACL in college and never went pro. He now runs a gym. Isabella became a nurse practitioner, respectable but not the untouchable genius everyone once adored. Then came the call. It was April and I was in my office, poring over case notes, when Mom's number lit up my phone. When I answered, her voice trembled. Dad was shouting in the background. They were in deep trouble. Dad's financial firm was under federal scrutiny for shady accounting practices. His career, their status, their wealth, it was all at risk. And the lawyer they needed, the only one with the expertise and network to pull them out? Me, the kid dumber than a dog, the jellyfish with bad grades. I let them plead. I let them beg. When Mom finally asked if I'd take their case, I said calmly, "Funny, I thought Max or the jellyfish were smarter than me. Maybe you should ask them for help." Then I hung up. After I ended the call, I sat in my office, staring at the rows of legal texts on my shelves. For years, I'd fantasized about this moment, not their downfall, but the chance to hold the power. They'd ridiculed me, belittled me, said I was worth less than a dog or a jellyfish. Now they were desperate, begging the son they dismissed to save them. The irony was almost poetic, but old scars don't fade easily. Even after all I'd achieved, a part of me still yearned for what I'd never gotten. Their respect, their acknowledgement, a simple, "We misjudged you, Ethan." Yet that call held no humility. They didn't say, "We're sorry for how we treated you." They didn't own their cruelty. They just expected me to step in like an obedient son. A week later, Lucas and Isabella invited me to dinner, calling it a sibling catch-up. I wasn't fooled. We met at a chain restaurant near Lucas's place. He'd gained weight since his basketball days, and Isabella looked drained from long hospital shifts. After some stilted chit-chat, Isabella finally said, "Mom and Dad told us about their situation. They said you were pretty harsh on the phone." "Harsh?" I raised an eyebrow. "They want me to fix Dad's mess after 2 decades of calling me dumber than a jellyfish. Forgive me if I wasn't eager to jump in." Lucas tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Ethan, that was just their way of toughening you up. You know how Dad is, he didn't mean it." That sparked something in me. I leaned forward. "Don't rewrite history, Lucas. They meant every word. And you two didn't exactly stand up for me. You joined in." Isabella sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Look, none of us had a perfect childhood, but this is serious. Dad could go to jail, Mom could lose everything. Don't you think holding on to old grudges is a bit selfish?" "Selfish?" I said, my voice sharp but controlled. "Selfish is being compared to a dog for failing a science test. Selfish is being told an octopus could run a law firm better than me. They tore me down for years, and now I'm supposed to be their hero." Lucas and Isabella shared a look. For once, they had no response. The next week, my parents showed up at my office without warning. My assistant buzzed me, saying, "Ethan, your parents are here, they won't leave." I nearly sent them away, but curiosity got the better of me. They walked in looking like ghosts of their former selves. Dad, once so sharp, had dark circles under his eyes, his suit rumpled. Mom's hair was messy, her eyes swollen from crying. "Ethan, please," Mom began, her voice breaking. "We need you, your father, he's being investigated for fraud. They're saying he approved accounts that weren't above board." Dad cut in, his tone still carrying that old authority. "They're mistaken, it's a mix-up, but we need a top lawyer. And you're the only one we trust." That last line almost made me laugh. The only one they trust? After years of calling me useless, I leaned back in my chair, fingers laced. "You trust me now? That's rich. You didn't trust me when I said I could succeed. You didn't trust me when I got into college. You didn't trust me when I earned my law degree. But now I'm good enough because your world is falling apart." Dad's face hardened. He hated being called out. "This isn't the time for whining, Ethan. This is bigger than your hurt feelings." I stood, my voice icy. "Hurt feelings? No, Dad. This is about years of abuse dressed up as encouragement. You wanted a trained animal, not a son. Well, I learned my tricks. But I'm not performing for you anymore." Mom sobbed. "Please, Ethan, you can't let him go to jail." I opened the door. "You should go." Over the next few months, the investigation gutted Dad's firm. Colleagues turned on him. Clients bylaid. The media feasted on the story. Lucas called me twice a week, pleading for me to reconsider. Isabella sent long emails about family loyalty. I didn't budge. Eventually, Dad was charged with multiple counts of fraud and falsifying documents. His trial was public, messy, and devastating. Without me or a top-tier defense, he was convicted. He got a 6-year sentence. Mom scrambled to cover legal fees and downsize their life. The sprawling suburban house was sold. The beach condo gone, their savings drained by fines and penalties. For the first time, the people who'd held their superiority over me were brought low. One evening, about a year after Dad's sentencing, I was leaving the courthouse when I saw Mom sitting on a bench outside, clutching her bag. She looked diminished, like time had shrunk her. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "Ethan," she whispered. I could have kept walking, but something, the part of me still chasing closure, made me pause. She looked at me raw and broken. "We were wrong," she said. "Your father and I, we treated you terribly. We thought we were pushing you, but we were cruel. And now the only person who could have saved us is the son we tore apart." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The words I'd waited decades for had finally come. But instead of triumph, I felt hollow. It was too late. I shook my head. "I didn't need your apology to succeed. I needed it to heal. And you only gave it when you had nothing left to lose." Her tears fell, but I turned and walked away. Years later, I sometimes think about Max, the dog they always compared me to. Max died when I was in high school. I remember sobbing harder for him than I ever had for anything else, because at least Max loved me without judgment. Now, when people ask why I became a lawyer, I tell them the truth. Because I know what it's like to be voiceless, belittled, told you're less than an animal. And I vowed no child would feel that way if I could stop it. My parents may never have valued me, but every kid I represent, every case I win, that's proof I was always worth more than a dog or a jellyfish. I was worth everything. If this story entertained you, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you'll never miss any upcoming stories. See you soon in the next video.